Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Pillars of Eternity with me, Bring It Down.
Right.
You're making our way through Inslog's Compass. Alright, he never had a chance. Alright, so Fobano's letter. How is it that so grand a journey as mine should lead me here? The people of the Deerwood call this pitiable lagoon a sight to see. All I have experienced here is misfortune. I thought to explore the cavern by the waters, only to discover it was home to sporelings. I went to see the vaunted compass, and lost the bulk of my letters when I tripped over some driftwood. And last I made to inspect the dragon skulls nearby, led me menaced by some foolish little Zorops. I'll return to Gilded Vale as soon as I catch my breath. Unless the Zorops do not appear to have followed. Yeah, what he was saying. Give him a little upgrade. If I ever decide to allow Durance to use the Arbalist.
Let's go.
Alright, cut him down. At the center of a ring of jagged stone, its boulder casts long shadows across the sand as the sun moves overhead.
Laying low.
Light, flame, and sound. We'll keep to ourselves.
Hey. Hey.
Alright, and then there was one.
Nice and slow.
Alright, another page from Fulvano's travels. While traveling west towards Gilded Vale, I encountered a fellow traveler of some considerable intelligence, who engaged in pleasant conversation. It came to light that the poor fellow had the most execrable pair of boots upon him. I gave him one of my spare sets that he might better appreciate Valiant craftsmanship. And they serve him well, for he said he intended to cross the wilderness known as the Black Meadows. I cannot imagine it is a pleasant place.
I'll see what I can find. Laying low.
Alright, it is time to head back to Gilded Vale. I hear footsteps over this way. Sounds like they're off to the left. Maybe it's this guy. Alright, either way, back to Offer's house. Then we'll head to Esternwood, clear out that area, and we'll probably head to Caed Nua shortly after that. Or maybe we'll head there first. Haven't decided yet.
Hail and well met.
You were some time away. I worried you wouldn't return. Is that it? Have you brought it? Offer looks at you hopefully. What did Ronka say? Yes, I have it. Here it is. You really did it. Oh, bless you. Bless you. I don't know what I would have done without you. Now my baby will be safe. Offer beams at you. I can't thank you enough. Nod. Here, take this. You keep what remains of Ronga's payment, too. Thank you again. I'll take this before I settle into bed. Perhaps I'll finally rest easy. Alright, let's go catch up on some rest at the inn. And then, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna go to Caed Nua.
Right.
Welcome.
But we'll make sure we're rested up before we do. I'm gonna swing by the smithery as well and sell some stuff. I guess I could do here. I'll have to go to the smithery.
Right.
You must gather your party before venturing forth.
Hello, Kana. Just off the side of the path into Caed Nua stands an opposing figure. A tall, thick-set aumaua, clad in worn armor and peering up the outer walls of the keep. In his hand is a small piece of charcoal, and it works feverishly at taking notes upon a small scrap of paper. More than once he has to reach up to prevent his colorful cap from falling off his head as he gazes upward. What are you doing over there? The man looks over at you, blinking in surprise. His face splits in a wide and very toothy grin. He waves the parchment in greeting. Killing time, if I'm honest. I've already walked the perimeter twice. There are names scratched upon some of the bricks just there. Workers and masons, I expect. Carving a little immortality for themselves. He looks up at the wall again, expression fond. It's a fine keep, Caed Nua. 2 centuries to its name, and abandoned for nearly as long.
But the truly interesting part is in there, and I haven't had much luck in reaching the keep itself. I hoped to find the master of this place, a man by the name of Meerwald, but it seems that he either holds his privacy most dear, or else has been devoured by his house guests.
He points a piece of charcoal at the gates. Why haven't you gone inside? Well, just that there are a great many dangerous creatures between the keep and I. I did make an attempt, of course. I was chased away by dark spirits. I came here looking for Meerwald as well. Truly. and perhaps we can help one another. The grounds are infested with all manner of beasts. I've never seen the like. I don't want to risk it alone. The two sons of Roatai, together. I am sure we can manage it. Then we can both ask our questions of Merwald.
I seek a great treasure, you see. Not gold or silver, but the Tanvi Oratoa, the sacred book of our people, my friend. And it is there. Somewhere in there, at least. Beneath the keep.
Why would this Tanvi Oratoa is a Tora Toa? Let's be Toa. While this Tanvi Oratoa be here in the Deerwood? Precisely. That is the very question, he laughs. It is a long and twisting tale, my friend, as all good chance should be. I can tell you more if you wish, in time.